comes here just like to see the life, how life is going, and learn more vocabulary.
Tonight, this year's Royal Manitoba Winter Fair is down to its final day. We'll head to Brandon coming up. Your local news starts now.
This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Thanks for joining us. We'll get to that story in a bit. But first, people in the Parkland area are still trying to come to terms with the loss of 4 young lives after a traffic collision. A 5th is in hospital with serious injuries. Tonight, we're learning more about the victims of that collision. CBC's Josh Crabb now on the impact of the spring break tragedy.
A memorial is growing at the intersection of Highway 5 and Provincial Road 274 in Gilbert Plains. 4 teenagers from the area were killed in a collision here Wednesday night just before 11. A 15-year-old girl suffered serious injuries. Gerald Watt of Carberry says his 18-year-old daughter Alexandra Watt died in the crash.
She loved her animals, her family animals. She loved her family too. She just moved to Dawson to live with her friends. She had some very good friends in Carberry. She was also all liked.
RCMP say 2 17-year-old boys and an 18-year-old man were also killed. Officers say the car the teens were traveling in went through a stop sign and collided with the trailer of an eastbound semi. Dan Swintak identified the 18-year-old as his son Chris Swintak. He says his son was a cadet who loved making people laugh and that they had a close relationship.
He was my best friend. I raised him most of his life by myself, and we grew a bond together that it was inseparable.
Swintak says his son went to school in Dauphin. The 2 other boys attended Gilbert Plains Collegiate, which only has 62 students. The school opened its doors to students, families, and staff on spring break to give people a place to gather and get support. Carrie Fillion knows some of the victims personally and lives about 400 yards from where the crash happened. He says community members and friends of the victims gathered at his place in the aftermath.
When I got back after being at the scene, I walked in and there was all these people, and we just sat there and waited to get results.
Some of the victims were about to graduate high school. The division superintendent says they lived in an area where people are deeply connected and that this crash is having a huge impact on many people. Josh Crabb, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Silo Mission is broadening its services to people experiencing trauma and addictions. The humanitarian organization will no longer redirect people who have used substances to other services. CEO Tessa Blakey-Whitecloud says the focus is still recovery, but now staff will help people based on their behaviors and their needs.
There won't be a conversation about not being able to use substances or being redirected to one of our partners in the sector who is open to people using substances, because we're now one of those places.
The change is part of Siloam's new strategy announced last summer. The mission provides 3 meals a day to more than 400 people and has 140 shelter beds. High school students from across Canada are discovering that reconciliation, put simply, means friendship. Indigenous and non-Indigenous students spent the past week at Turtle Lodge Centre on Saugeen First Nation. It was hosted by an organization called Honoring Indigenous Peoples. Ethan Basil is a grade 11 student from Toronto. He says he enjoyed spending time with kids his age from different First Nations.
I think it's through these hands-on learnings that you take away more through the culture than you could anywhere else.
The event wrapped up today at the Canadian Centre for Human Rights with activities and sessions with local Indigenous leaders and authors. Well, it has been a very busy week at Brandon's Keystone Centre. Thousands of people have visited the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair, and this year newcomers had the chance to learn more about Canadian culture through special tours of the show. CBC's Chelsea Kemp brings us the story.
Exploring the Royal Farmyard to visit with sheep, chickens, and cows, Brandon newcomers had the regal experience at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair this week. Westman Immigrant Services partnered with RBC to give more than 100 newcomers a tour. Keltumala Ved even got to hit the stage with Doodles Doodoo the Clown. The 70-year-old came to Brandon from Syria in November 2020. She says her favorite part was the petting zoo because it reminded her of her home country.
I was so nervous, but so good. It's because in my country, we used to have farms there. So we have lots of animals, any animals we have. So it was a little bit nervous because I haven't touched them since 3 years, 4 years.
The community outreach manager at Westman Immigrant Services says the fair helps integrate newcomers by helping them learn about agricultural staples and other parts of Manitoba culture.
And I think it's just absolutely fantastic for our newcomers to get the opportunity to come and experience. Not everyone really knows what it's about.
Alavade is already excited to come back next year because she gets to learn more about Canada while practicing her conversational skills.
So I want to come here because English is not my first language and my parents, they don't speak English, so we have to get more words and like learn more. So when we get with people, that's how people learn.
Holt says the fair is one of many places Westman Immigrant Services works with in Brandon. The goal is to help newcomers feel integrated and welcomed into the community. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Brandon.
The community of St. Anne is vying to be this year's Craft Hockeyville. The Manitoba town is up against 4 other communities for the title. Now the winner gets to host an NHL game and also gets $250,000 for their arena. The town's rec services manager says winning the money could mean a new ice plant. The one they have right now is 50 years old, and the arena faces the possibility of having no ice next season if they can't get it repaired.
If we don't fix this, we won't be able to open our doors. So it's just we need to fix the heart of the facility before we can continue.
Now, Craft Hockeyville has never been awarded to a Manitoba rink before. Voting is unlimited and open until 4 o'clock local time tomorrow. Let's take a look at downtown Winnipeg tonight. It was a nice, bright and sunny day, at least here in the south. The north getting some snow, and we're in for a bit of a wet and snowy weekend here in the south as well. I'll have your weekend weather forecast when we come back. All right, welcome back. Well, it was a sunny day, as I mentioned, here in southern Manitoba, but we're in for some snow. Let's have a look at Futurecast right now, and you can see that we do have a little bit of precipitation moving through northern Manitoba as we start the day on Saturday. A few clouds, but a relatively sunny day for most of southern Manitoba. Still some lingering snow in the north. This could be 3 to 5 centimeters. But look at the bottom of your screen there. We have an area of low pressure that will move into southern Manitoba beginning on Sunday, bringing a bit of a wet rain-snow mix, maybe some freezing rain to the Red River Valley through into the early part of Sunday and into the later part of Sunday as well. So looking like it might be a bit of a messy end to the weekend in terms of accumulations. Really, the Red River Valley not looking like we're going to get too much, up to maybe 2 to 5 centimeters of snow. Most of this concentrated in the west, areas like Riding Mountain National Park down toward Brandon. Looking like we could get some accumulating snow by the time we get to the late part of Sunday. In terms of our temperatures, we are expecting another cold one tomorrow morning, minus 15s in Winnipeg and Brandon. Into the afternoon, minus single digits. Could even see some temperatures above 0 as well through the afternoon tomorrow. So there's that snow for Sunday, a bit breezy into Monday as well with some lingering morning flurries. More snow on Wednesday, and could see warmer temperatures toward the end of next week. That's your late news for this Friday. We leave you tonight with a look at an event that is on now at the Norbury Glenlee Community Center. Members of the arts community are holding a fundraiser for Ukraine. Have a great weekend.